In this lesson, we're going to take a look at how to add a new bolt and a new bolt standard to the Tekla bolts catalog. So to begin with, let's start off here and go to the bolts catalog first. We're going to look in here, and the particular bolt and bolt standard that we're going to add is a 5/8 diameter A325T. Now the A325T does not exist in our database, so we have to create this bolt standard to begin with. So to do that, to make things easier, I'm just going to type in a star 5/8 star here. That'll filter out all of the 5/8 bolts that are currently in there, and then we'll just go here and go A325 star and filter out that. So now we have it all narrowed down to the bolts that we do have that are kind of close. You'll see that there's A325 TCs in here, and when we click on a TC, we see the TC up here. So the basic idea is we're going to take the one of the existing bolts and convert it to the type of bolt we want. So I'll start off with, say, the 2-inch bolt. You probably, if you're going to do this, you would probably have to do all of the bolts down to at least 3 inches. The whole idea being you need to create bolts that you're actually going to use in your model for connections. So if you end up having a connection, say, that had a bolt longer than 3 inches, the connection would not be able to fully create that bolt. So, but I'm going to start with the 2-inch bolt here. So you'll notice that it appears down in this little box here. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the C out of here and create a brand new bolt standard. Now I'm going to show you later on where that shows up, because this is the important part. If you don't do this, then this standard will not show up in your bolt assembly catalog. You won't be able to make the bolt assembly properly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to merely alter this text down here and put a T here, and basically just leave it like that, and leave the length in here and make sure that this text length equals this actual numerical value here. After we've done that, we will simply add that bolt to the catalog, and while we're in here, we can go ahead and add a few more in the same way. So what I'll do next is I'll create, say, a 2 1/4 inch bolt. So I'll go all the way down to my TC 2 1/4. This one here, I'm going to take the C out and go over here and put the reason I'm doing it this way is so that I can maintain the weights. Now if you were actually adding bolts that weren't even in this list here, you're going to have to find a nice looking block of text to type in here that describes the bolt. But you'll also have to describe these parameters in here correctly for your bolt. Because if you don't do these correctly here, you'll end up with bolts that have really strange looking head diameters, etc. So this is why I'm copying existing bolts. Okay, so I have that one typed in here. It's all ready to go, and I just click in Add. Okay, so I've now created a couple of bolts, and with that, you would simply go on and create the rest. So I won't bother with that. So I'll just say OK. And here's an important thing to understand, is it wants to save changes to the model folder. So I'm going to do that. I'll say OK. What that is done, if I go into here to File, Open Model Folder, you'll see that it's created a file in here, if I can find it. Where is it? ScrewDB, right there. And you'll notice a fairly good sized file. So what it's done is it's taken a complete copy of your existing bolt database and added those 2 bolts to it and placed it in here. So if you need to use these bolts in other models, you're going to have to take this file out of here and put it in your firm folder or in the new model folder that you're going to be working on in the future. So now we'll go to the bolt assembly catalog. What this does is it allows you to create what's called a bolt assembly based on that standard name, and basically a bolt assembly is just consisting of the bolt itself plus washers and some nuts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the one here that's already partially created for me. Let's just say we could use this one. Okay, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to edit this. Put a T in here. Actually, what I should do first is go in here. Now you'll notice when I was creating this bolt in the bolt catalog a few minutes ago, I added that 325T, and I told you that it was very important to do it there first. Yes, because if you don't do it there first, you will not see it in this drop list here. So this is the reason why you wouldn't actually be able to create the bolt assembly. So we need to have that one in there, and then simply go in here and just edit these guys out. Put in the configuration that you want it to be, and over here as well put in a T, and then just simply click the Add button. That places it right into catalog. There it is. Double check by clicking on it. Make sure that you have all your washers and jam nuts, etc. showing up there, and then we click OK, and again you're asked to save to the model folder, and so I'll click OK, and when I go back to my model folder to see what it made, you'll see in here that there is also a new file called assembly.db, wherever it went. I'll just right there, ASSDB. So these two files then would have to be saved, otherwise you won't have these new bolts for other models. So that pretty well concludes how to add new bolts, but just before I do, I'm going to show you how to use those bolts. So I've got a connection over here, clip angle 141, and I'm going to simply create a connection here for this column to beam. I'll load, say, a knife connection in here, and then I'll go to the bolts tab. Now when I click this, you'll see that I can now find my A325T bolt standard. Now the only two sizes that are available for this bolt standard right now are the 2-inch and the 2 1/4 inch bolt that I made. So when I create this connection here, it's only going to have those two bolts available to it. So I'll pick the 5/8 diameter here. You can see that 5/8 is the only diameter also available, and I'll just put in a 1/16 tolerance here, and proceed to click that and make sure everything's okay there, and then I'm going to create the connection and see if it worked. And there we have it. Okay, so I have my bolts there. Now had I not, by the way, these bolts happen to be 2 1/4 inch bolts, but if the configuration of this connection was such that those bolts had to be 1 3/4 inches, you wouldn't see the heads on the bolts. They would disappear here. So that is why you would know right away that you didn't have a bolt. So this concludes the lesson on how to create a new bolt with a new bolt standard in the bolt catalog.